Good morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock. Welcome to the Thirsk and Malton Area Planning Committee on Thursday, the 19th of September. Can I just remind members of the public you are entitled to attend this meeting as observers for all those items taken in open session. Please note the meeting is being recorded. If you wish to record the meeting yourself, then please give due regard to the Council's protocol on audio, visual recording and photography at public meetings. Can I also remind members and officers to speak clearly and audibly when addressing the meeting? If the fire alarm sounds, please exit the chamber by the emergency exits located at the entrance and to the rear of the chamber and congregate in the visitors' car park. Ladies and gents, toilets are located in the entrance corridor, and can I just remind members to put their phones on silent? Thank you very much. First thing on the agenda is apologies for absence, please.
Mr. Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Baker. Councillor Sanderson is substituting, and Councillor Napton, Councillor Jabbar is substituting.
Thank you very much. Minutes from the last meeting. Is everybody happy with the minutes from the last meeting? Are we doing that by general affirmation? Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Nikki. Declarations of interest from anybody? No, thank you very much. Item 4 is planning application ZF24/00511/FL, and it is the demolition of existing sports hall and erection of 4-number holiday lets and conversion and existing leisure centre buildings to create 5-number holiday lets with associated hard and soft landscaping at Hunmanby Hall Sport and Leisure, Hall Park Road, Hunmanby, Filey, North Yorkshire. We do have speakers this morning, and I will ask them to come forward at the relevant point, and they will have 3 minutes each, and I'll give an audible warning when there's 30 seconds left to go. And I think it's now over to the officer. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. So this application is called for consideration following the deferral from the August meeting, as a site meeting was requested for members. This site meeting has now taken place, and there's just a couple of updates from the last meeting from our side. The former condition 12 on the previous report has now been omitted. This was a drainage details condition, which has now been sufficiently covered by conditions 17 and 18 on this report and recommendation. Condition 12 was considered to be repetitive and unnecessary, and the required details are now suitably covered through the conditions 17 and 18. Secondly, in terms of the marketed information, which I believe has been circulated now, the authority has sought to gain further information from the applicant and the agent, specifically a written statement from the estate agent Cundles, which sought to confirm the accuracy of the information submitted. However, it's understood that the agent has tried to acquire this ahead of this meeting, but has been unsuccessful. In terms of the presentation, it's not intended to present this in full again, given it's effectively the same as the last meeting. However, there is one additional slide, which is slide 10, if you could. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. So in terms of this additional slide, it was questioned during the last meeting the position of the scheduled ancient monument in relation to the site. This slide is just showing the sort of location of that and the distance from the scheduled ancient monument, which is to the north of the picture, in relation to the site, which is around 300 meters away. In your officer's opinion, the impact on the scheduled ancient monument is very limited, given there's a distance of 300 meters. local plan policies in relation to the impact on the SAM are largely archaeological based. Again, given the significant distance, the proposed construction works, foundations, etc., would have very limited, if any, impact on the archaeological impacts in the area. The council's archaeologist has been consulted and has raised no objections to the proposal. That's it. Thank you. That's it. That's all we've got. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I am just a little bit concerned because we have two different members on the committee today.
Yeah.
Can we just have a
course.
brief synopsis of what was last time? Because we also have different members of the public as well. So I think it's incumbent on us to put the information out there. Okay. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay, so again, the application is for the demolition of the existing sports hall and the redevelopment of the site for 9 holiday lets. The sports hall is in association with the Hummingbee Hall site on Hall Park Road. The development includes the erection of a replacement building to house 4 holiday lets alongside the conversion of the existing gym building, which is to accommodate 5 holiday lets. Next slide, please. The application site refers to an area within the former grounds of Hummingbee Hall, which is a Grade 2 star listed building. Specifically, the application site refers to an area in the southwest of the hall, with the site containing the former sports hall, a gym, leisure building, an existing holiday let, and the access into the site is from Hall Park Road to the south of the sports hall, leading into a parking area. Looking at the wider site, Hummingbee Hall is located approximately 500 metres west of the main village, which is visible. Sorry, this is I think it's maybe the previous slide. Sorry, that's the one, which is visible as a larger settlement to the right hand side of the image on screen now. Next slide, please. The existing site is somewhat visually dominated by the sports hall. This is a fairly large flat roof structure with timber cladding, which is directly adjacent to Hall Park Road. The existing access, which is on screen right now, is again from Hall Park Road, leading to the parking area. Next slide, please. These are further images of the sports hall from Hall Park Road looking southwards. The existing holiday let is attached to the northern side of the sports hall, which is visible on the left-hand side of the image. Next slide, please. To the left-hand side of the left-hand side image on screen now is showing the entrance to the existing sports hall on the northeast corner. On the right-hand side of the image is the existing holiday let. Next slide, please. The left-hand side image on screen now shows the entrance into the existing gym building. Again, this is to be retained and converted. The right-hand side image is the adjacent residential properties. The layout of these buildings form somewhat of a shared courtyard. Next slide, please. The Grade 2 star listed Hummingbee Hall is located to the north of the site. This is a separate access to the application site. This leads into a courtyard which is currently used for parking. Next slide, please. And just to further explain the proposal, the proposed site layout seeks to redevelop the site for 9 holiday lets. The sports hall will be demolished and replaced by 1.5-storey structure housing 4 holiday lets. The gym building is to be retained and converted into 5 holiday lets. All of the accommodation in this building is at the ground floor level. The frontages of the 2 buildings face onto each other with no outward facing windows. Additional soft landscaping will be formed on site for each of the holiday lets. Next slide, please. Yes, okay. Just go on to the next one, please. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. The converted building will provide accommodation for 5 holiday lets, 4 of which are one bedroomed. Plot 9 is 2 bedroomed. All of the accommodation is on the ground floor level with existing alterations proposed, fenestration details, additional windows and roof lights. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The replacement building will provide holiday accommodation for 4 holiday lets. The rear elevation of the building is adjacent to Hull Park Road. This is blank, excluding the roof lights. Next slide, please. This is a site plan showing the footprint of the existing building, which is a sports hall in the red outline, and compared to the replacement building, which has been reduced from 850 square meters to 300 meters. Sorry, 300 square meters. Next slide, please. The vehicle access into the site remains to the south via Hall Park Road. The access will be slightly widened to improve visibility in both north and south facing directions. 3 additional parking spaces will be formed on site, leading to a total number of 16 parking spaces. 2 accessible spaces and 3 visitor parking spaces will be formed within the site. A bin store and cycle store is also proposed, with details covered to follow through conditions. Next slide, please. A tree planting scheme has been provided, showing the planting of 5 individual trees and 6 tree groups. A tree works application preceded this particular application to remove some trees, but obviously the planting scheme is to replace those removed trees. Next slide, please. In terms of the wider assessment of the application, the consideration has been against several local plan policies, including HC8, EMV6, TOU4 and TOU1. The application represents loss of community facilities, which is protected through HC8 unless one or more criteria can be made to justify its loss. The applicant has presented a case which seeks to justify against point A of policy HC8, outlining that the site has been marketed for a period of 17 months and that the facilities were used to a limited degree beforehand. There's no outline period in policy HCA, although a marketing period of 17 months is generally seen as appropriate within a rural area, a low density rural area. The application is a development within the countryside, where development should be significantly restrained, although tourist accommodation is specifically allowed in the wording of the policy by TOU4, subject to it being an appropriate scale in that location, is visually unobtrusive and can be successfully integrated into the surrounding landscape. In terms of that sort of assessment, the application seeks to reuse a brownfield site. The replacement building is of a smaller scale compared to the removed sports hall, which is considered to have a negative to neutral impact on the setting of the nearby historic assets. And the replacement building is considered to be an improvement in terms of design and appearance. The existing uses on site are also untypical uses which to be found in a countryside location. For example, a gym building is a typical town centre use. Therefore, the redevelopment of the site for less visually unobtrusive development is considered to be acceptable by your officers. TOU1 is a general condition which supports and encourages the diversification of the tourism offering, which plays a vital role in the borough's economy. Again, the main physical change on site is the removal of the sports hall, which is seen as a negative impact on the character of the area. The impact on the setting of the hall, parkland and scheduled ancient monument is considered to be neutral compared to the existing. The access into the site is existing, which will be widened and improved. Visibility improved in both directions. Additional car parking spaces formed within the site with no objections from the local highways authority. And no other internal or external consultee has objected to the scheme, several of which have requested further information which can be covered through planning conditions. It is therefore considered that the application is in compliance with relevant local plan policies and is recommended to be permitted subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan. I'll now turn to the speakers. So the first speaker to be invited is Alex Dyke. Mr. Dyke, could you come forward to the chair? You'll see the microphone in front of you. If you press the green button so that you can speak, that will help. You've got 3 minutes, Mr. Dyke, and I will give you a warning at 30 seconds left.
Good morning, Madam Chair, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. My name's Alexander Dyke and I'm here today as the speaker representing the objectors. My wife and I are the current custodians of Music Hall House at Hummonby Hall, and I'm retired after a 40+ year career in large rural estate management that included, amongst many other things, involvement in the development of a golf course on agricultural land in Essex in the 1990s. We note that the case officer's report recommends the granting of full planning permission. We do not agree with several of the reasons or arguments given for this, but for expediency reasons, we wish to hone in on just one for now. The main justification for this recommendation was that the case officer believes this application meets the criteria of Local Plan Policy HC8A. It can be demonstrated that the facility is no longer required, having been vacant and marketed for community use without success. We believe this is patently not the case for the following reasons. One, surely the fact that the property was sold at the asking price, albeit after 17 months, means that one cannot argue without success. Two, the sale price as marketed, 1.295 million as a 9-hole golf course on 41 acres, had significant development or hope value in it, by our estimation in the region of £500,000. This can be evidenced by regard to other precedents on the market currently at around 50% of this value on a like-for-like basis, details of and links to which I circulated to councillors by email on the 14th of August at 4:09. Three, we've asked for the particulars to be circulated around to you of the sale, and hopefully you can see many references in there to the development potential of the site. Four, the gym closed in April 2022, just before the site was placed on the market for sale, when the vendor's family member responsible for running it chose voluntarily to move and reside in York. This does not prove that the business was unviable. Five, the sports hall and golf course continued to operate up until the date of sale of the site to the applicants in September 2023, albeit at a reduced level post the COVID epidemic of 2020. But this was the vendor's family decision
30 seconds.
and does not prove that the business was unviable. Indeed, the Cundale sales particulars actually state this. Six, it should be noted by council at the same time as the marketing was being carried out, an application was submitted for the whole site to be included in the review of the local plan for residential development. We understand that it was Cundall's, the selling agent's brief, to achieve the highest price that they could, but this is clearly not marketed for a community use, which should surely have no development or hope value attached. We also have tangible evidence that a local Hummonby
That's 3
business
minutes, Mr. Dyke.
made a realistic business case for this site and it was turned down. This is a classic example of a site that has been made intentionally unviable, and therefore on this point alone, if nothing else, the application must be refused. Thank you.
Next speaker is Miss Wilkins. She's chair of the Hummonby Parish Council. Miss Wilkins, same situation, 3 minutes. I'll give you a warning when there's 30 seconds left. And it's the green button in front of you on the microphone to help.
Yeah, it's already switched on. Good morning, Madam Chair, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dorothy Wilkins and I've lived in Hummonby 10 years and I'm the current chair of Hummonby Parish Council, having served on the council for 6 years. I agree with Alex Dykes in that the marking strategy for this site placed too much emphasis on development potential. Hopefully your site visit will have helped you see why we feel this site is the jewel in our crown and therefore warrants careful consideration of any application for development. For 20 years, this 41-acre parkland site has been used sympathetically in commercial, recreation and leisure, providing extremely valuable amenity to the local community. Any loss of this has a significant amenity impact on the whole of the community of Hummonby. It should be noted that this application not only removes the current use of the sports hall and gym, but more importantly, the ancillary buildings that are essential to the operation of the 41-acre site, and if granted, would require further development to allow the use of the whole site. We therefore believe it's very important that this planning application is seen in context of the whole 41 acres, not just the current site application. Since any further phases of development, if granted on the rest of the site, would probably involve the loss of important green space within the conservation area and in the setting of a national site of special historic interest. We believe any application for even the small part of this site should at the very least be obligated to include a plausible holistic outline plan for the future use of the wider site. Without this holistic outline plan for the whole of the site, we believe that it just isn't possible to properly weigh up the balance of possible benefit against the possible adverse impact of the current proposal and decide whether it constitutes sustainable development as defined by the NPFF. Whilst inclined to support any well-designed and sensitive application for development that would support the continued use of this extremely important site as a valuable sports and leisure facility, in our opinion, this application does exactly the opposite, and therefore on this occasion we wish to object to the application and seek refusal.
Good morning, Councillor Donoghue Moncrief. Would you like to step forward? I think you know what the operation is.
Yes, thank you. Just 1 second. Okay, good morning, Madam Chairman. Good morning to the committee as well. Firstly, I'm here this morning to support the previous two speakers. There is a couple of points I would wish to put to you, but I believe the crux of this case is the issue around HCA 8A and whether or not the site was viable for its existing use. Clearly, from the terms of the particulars of the sale, they clearly use terminology which would have required HC8A to be used in order to get planning, but it was sold with that in the basis. It is in the text of the sales particulars. At the same time as they were marketing it, they then submitted the site for inclusion for housing development, yet now we're told that they were genuinely trying to keep it for its existing use. That document is on North Yorkshire Council's website. I found it this week through Google. Just a couple of points else I'd like to make. Humby is the largest service village within the Scarborough local plan area. Along with Filey, it has been identified as having some of the worst health outcomes in North Yorkshire. Given the pressures we will face to deliver new housing, I strongly believe that the statement in sections 6.86 of the Scarborough local plan that access to such facilities play an important role in facilitating social interacting and creating inclusive communities is more relevant than ever. I would also point you to paragraph 96C of the NPPF, which requires planning authorities to enable and support healthy lifestyles, especially when this would address identified local health and well-being needs, which is the case here. In addition, paragraph 97B requires planning authorities to take into account and support delivery of local strategies to improve health, social and cultural well-being. Paragraph 103A requires an assessment to be undertaken, which clearly shows buildings are surplus to requirements. How have these been assessed? And finally, about 10 years ago, the Planning Department recommended approval of the conversion of the White Swan public house in Humby to housing, on the basis that, you may recognise this, it had been unsuccessfully marketed and there was no viable future for the business. The Planning Committee refused the planning application. The Planning Inspector subsequently upheld their decision as he would undermine access to local services in a local plan service village. The White Swan is still operating and thriving today. In fact, you could see it, its footprint on the edge of one of the photographs that you were shown. The planners were wrong then, they're wrong now. Thank you.
And finally, Mr. Morton Schmidt-Hans, would you like to come forward? You've got 3 minutes. I'll give you a warning when you've got 30 seconds left.
Good morning. We are pleased that the application has the support of the planning officers and officers dealing with heritage, highways, archaeology, environmental health and drainage. Last year we submitted a similar application for 14 holiday homes. Following comments from heritage and planning officers, we withdrew the application and redesigned it. We are pleased to now have gained support for the new proposal. The sports hall and gym were underused and marketed for over a year, with no interest from buyers who wanted to run the premises before. We hope to develop 9 holiday homes with this application. The next stage will be to refurbish and open the tennis courts and dog walking track and a bowls green or other suitable leisure facilities designed by the community. These facilities would be open to local people as well as holiday makers. This will be done when the holiday homes are being built and will need another planning application. Getting consent for these holiday homes is key to making that happen. The sports hall was built for a former school and is a prominent and unattractive building on Hall Park Road, as you will have seen from the site visit. The building is within a conservation area and is near to listed buildings. We consider that the hall's replacement with a more modest 1.5-storey terrace of 4 holiday homes will be much less visible and will enhance the character of the area. The trees on site are being managed with poor trees removed and new ones being planted. The site is a sustainably located brownfield area, which is close to the facilities in the centre of Humby. Highways officers thought that the site was a long walk from the facilities, however it is only 650 metres along a footpath. This is closer to the central facilities than many existing homes in Humby. It is also closer to a good range of facilities than many recently built holiday homes in the area. Some local people objected to the loss of facilities, however it is intended to open the dog walking and tennis courts once the holiday homes open. Highways officers are happy with the vehicle access and there is no record of accidents on Hall Park Road. Some people wanted residential homes to be built, however planning policy does not support this. 9 holiday homes will not cause noise or disturbance compared to the gym, which would have opened early and late in the day. It was noted there were concerns during the site visit regarding fire safety and access to fire engines. I can confirm that all units will be building regulation compliant and that any outside of the 45 metres from the car park will be fit with enhanced fire protections, such as sprinkler systems, in order to comply with the regulations. The next stage for the site includes opening the dog walking track and tennis courts and creating other leisure facilities which will be available for local people. This was discussed with members of the parish council during the visit to site, in which they said they would be able to advise on facilities that may be desired by the community.
30 seconds.
We can only apologise for the oversight in not engaging with them sooner to keep them informed of the plans. This development will help deliver these facilities. The terrace of 4 holiday homes, which will replace the sports hall, will improve the character of the area and improve the conservation area and setting of the listed buildings. The site is empty and needs to be reused. A modest holiday home development will sensibly reuse the brownfield site and complies with planning policy. Thank you.
I would just make the point regarding the wider development of the site is obviously something that falls outside of the application, what we're dealing with today. As Malton said, the dog walking track and everything else would be subject to a different application to this one that we're dealing with now. So obviously we're just considering what we've got on screen today. Thank you.
Right, members, I'll open it up for questions. Janet, Councillor Sanders.
Sorry, I'm mindful that I wasn't here last week and I'm just catching up on that, so apologies if it's already been asked. 7.10 about the pedestrian route to Hunmunby Station. If that was progressed, would it have to go back before the crime that has been done? The previous, just trying to find it. Yes, that would it have to go back to the crime officer, because I'm mindful that if you did open a route to Hunmunby Central, then that would set the other bit out of kilter. So what would be the position there? Because it seems like a good idea. Highways have recommended it in their proposal. Just what the implications would be for crime. Thank you.
Well, that's not being considered now. That's something that Highways requested, which was requested by the authority. However, the agent has recommended concerns with that, given that would have to pass through land that they don't own. So that's not being considered now. So the design out crime officer has recommended security things, so locks and stuff like that. That's more, it's nothing to do with the path. What they've recommended there. Thank you.
Nathan, can I just ask a question? Because I am very aware that it's outside the development limits, but this is actually a brownfield site because it's redevelopment of what's always already there. Is that my correct interpretation of this?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, any land in sort of the countryside that's been developed on previously is considered to be brownfield site. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Burr.
Thank you. With developments, we often get the consultation information, and especially if a development is quite controversial, it's even more so important that we understand how much consultation was done with the village and if there was any open events or if there was any meetings, etc., etc. Could you just run through the events regarding the public participation when we actually came to the final application? I'm trying to understand how much involvement took place before this came to this committee.
Yeah, so I mean, from our perspective, we just put site notices up and requested anybody who was interested in the scheme to make comments on that. In terms of public connotations or events, we didn't undertake anything like that. We put up 3 site notices on either site, and you know, yeah, that's all we did. Thank you. No worries.
Anyone else? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification about the use of it for tourism purposes. I think the officer made reference in that was an exemption. Is that correct for this planning purpose?
Yeah, so we have a couple. Sorry, we have a couple of plan policies in relation to tourism development in general, which is TOU 1. That supports and encourages the diversification of the tourism and industry in the whole plan area. But in relation to tourism development in countryside location, we've got TOU 4 and EMV 6, which allows for tourism development, which is of a appropriate scale, is not visual intrusive, and can be successfully integrated into the surrounding landscape. Yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah, good.
Right, if there are no other questions, I will move it into debate. Does anybody want to pick this up first, or looking around the room? Nobody. Okay. I hear loud and clear from the local member and from the parish council and objectors, and I accept that it's of considerable concern. However, we can't consider here what happens with the parkland going forward because it's not part of the application. The application is the blue line site that was shown earlier, and that's the only thing that we can consider, not what might happen to the parkland in the future. The role of this committee is to look at what's before us, and that's the blue line site and the red line site, which is that for development. I accept that we are in a very sensitive area. I looked at the sports hall and I found it incongruous really with the location. Quite how it was built before, I'm really not sure. And I do think that the development of 4 holiday cottages over that site is rather more sympathetic than what's there now. And so I am going to support the application and I'm happy to move it from the chair. Councillor Taylor.
I think this is not bearing. It's going to bring employment up as well to the area. So on that basis, I am happy to support.
Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I remember sitting on this planning committee when we had a very similar situation in Alliston, where we had a cluster of holiday cottages which were built near to the pub, but they were beyond the development envelope of the village of Alliston, and it was very contentious. It was very difficult for residents to understand because they couldn't put a development in the open field, but there was that precedence there. And I remember sitting on the planning committee. As has already been said, it's each application on its own merits. It's not our job to look to the future, but to determine what is here and now before us. And as far as the site notices are concerned, yes, it's what we do. It's what we do for every application. We put site notices up. We also inform the parish councils, and we know that the parish council have been informed because they've spoken very eloquently today at the meeting. So, you know, I think people will have known that that was going to happen, and so for that reason, I think the consultation, I'm happy that that has been done in the correct manner. So yes, I'm happy to support the application. Thank you.
I'm going to come to Councillor Cross, but there's just one or two items on the conditions that I just want to touch on. Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chair. We're in one of them very difficult situations here. And as somebody who has been campaigning to have a sports hall in Filey for the last 20 years, when I could run and I could take active parts in sport, I find it sad that we're losing a sports centre. A sports centre that, if it were in the next village or town, would be well used, hopefully. And they're right in saying HC8, you know, is the factor that we should consider here. And I'm looking at the site, and I do know the site fairly well. And, you know, I find it sad that there wasn't proper consultation with the residents of Hummonby, you know, moving forward. And, you know, now we've actually, most people have been to actually see the site. I think they can see what a lovely site it is. And the fact, I know we're talking about the blue line, but we must preserve some of that. You know what I mean? Most of them trees on that site have TPOs, and it's an absolute lovely venue, you know, place to actually be. So I'm thinking, you know, what is the alternative? You know, and the alternative probably is holiday accommodation, but I would like some conditions to that accommodation, that it can never be sold, etc. That it is maintained, and it's not often I sit on the fence on any decision, but I'm actually on the fence in this decision. So really, it's just the bottom of my heart says probably no, because it's in breach of HCA, and it's something that we should maintain. But then I'm looking at the other alternative. I think if we would have had proper consultation from the start, you know what I mean, more residents would have bought into the fact that it would be holiday homes, the building would be reduced. It's a bit of an unsightly building, but generally most sports halls are unsightly buildings, you know, due to the very nature of what they're used for. So really, I don't know what to think. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just, well, at the risk of stating the obvious, as the case officer said, we obviously advertise these applications in line with the statutory requirements, as previously noted. I said we do actively encourage pre-application engagement from potential developers with communities, but ultimately we've no kind of, we can't force that to happen. But I think we'd certainly encourage any future development proposals in that area to be have full engagement with the community, and I think that's probably a message that's coming across loud and clear to the developer. Just in terms of an aspect of detail, and in terms of Councillor Cross's comments, we are recommending the sort of standard holiday accommodation condition be attached to ensure that it remains in that particular use, to give you, well, a degree of comfort and answer to that particular particular comment. So thank you.
Sybil, did you indicate?
I did. Thank you, Chair. I didn't come to the site visit because I know Hummonby very, very well. I've been going through Hummonby for 25 years, most weekends. Totally know the village and seen the deterioration of the village. And there's no doubt that the village needs sustainability and the village needs some security for its residents. The reason why I got into politics was for a sports hall to be built in Malton. And there was so much opposition against it, it was untrue. It came to my casting vote, and Sports Hall was saved, it was built, and it's the best thing that ever happened for Malton and for its residents and for the well-being of the residents of Malton and outer villages. So just because something looks pretty doesn't mean to say that we as a council can actually say, yeah, well, it looks pretty and I'm sure it's going to be nice, so let's approve this. I fundamentally disagree with it because I think that the crisis that we're in at the moment with the well-being of the whole population, we need to try and maintain any facilities. Because we haven't got a strategy moving forward, and I totally understand that we have to deal with what is in front of us, as councillors, we do have to be mindful, whatever we pass or approve, we will have no control really on what would be maybe nice to have a dog walk or maybe nice to have a tennis court. That will be another application and that could fall. So there are quite a lot of reasons of why I won't be supporting this. It would be controversial if some houses were going to be built, but at least if some houses were going to be built, they would probably use all those facilities that is needed in a local village. So it's a controversial one that, you know, if you're saying that, well, we should tidy up the site, then, you know, maybe we should look at the houses so people could afford it. The village would be revitalised, but that's not on the table today. But I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about the well-being. I don't want to vote for something that I don't feel, and I get our officers what they are saying, that they can't force people to engage. But I think that it would have been really good to find out, you know, what the general feeling was. However, having said all that, I would like to move refusal. I'm probably sure that no one will second it, but I certainly won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thanks, just a minute, Sam. Councillor Andrews.
Yes, thank you. I understand loud and clear what Councillor Burr's saying about retaining something like this for the local people. However, you can't make the owner of this site reopen a gym and open the facilities to the local community again. And I know the pub was mentioned, and the pub is now thriving, which is great. But alternatively, you can drive through lots of villages within the area where we've not allowed planning permission for pub changing into housing, and we've got boarded up pubs in villages. And I think if we don't approve this today, we're going to end up with a huge warehouse, for want of a better word, on the edge of a beautiful village that will just deteriorate. And so therefore, I have every sympathy with the residents of Hunmanby that they've lost this really good facility. But us refusing it today won't necessarily mean they will get that facility back. Therefore, it's the lesser of two evils, if you like. Really, I think I would second Councillor Goodrick's proposal for approving this application. Thank you.
Councillor Cross, you indicated you want to come back.
Yeah, as I say, I didn't know where I stood with the application, but I actually think about the number of holiday homes that we actually have and the number of holiday homes that there is in Hunmanby. And we have 1,100 holiday homes in Fida. You know what I mean? And the question is, do we need any more? You know what I mean? We have quite a lot of holiday homes in Hull, maybe not as many as Filey. We have thousands of caravans, and we're getting more every day. And do we really need? This is not the sort of housing that we actually need. And I shall support Councillor Burr in refusal. Thank you.
Very much. Councillor Sanderson. Can I just quickly touch on some of the conditions? Sorry, we did look at this yesterday, but one of the things I picked up was there was a suggestion that there were bats roosting in the area, and I didn't see any bat boxes. And there is, I would have said it's a good site for owls, and I'd like us to try and improve the biodiversity net gain of this site. So I think we need to consider whether we can put those in the conditions. There was the mention of bike storage. I don't know whether the design and out crime officer has picked this up, but I didn't see anything that said it was locked to prevent bike theft. I know there is a condition with regard to lighting, and we want the lighting to be dark skies compliant, but is this going to be low level like bollard type lighting or downlighters? And we covered this yesterday, and I think it's important that we just make this very clear that condition 16 removes any permitted development rights. Is that my understanding of everything? Any comments to make? Because I'm looking at my colleagues and thinking, do we need colleagues to support any of the changes to the conditions or suggestions to the conditions? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of the so we have got bat boxes. That's in the recommendations of the document in that condition. But in terms of owls, that wasn't a part of the appraisal from the site. Largely given that owls are typically found in sort of former agricultural buildings, this isn't one. However, the ecologists who undertook the survey would have found any evidence of sort of owls being in the building and would have suggested some mitigation for that. So that's the reason for that. In terms of the conditions, I mean, I'm more or less happy with what you said. We can make those specifications clear on the conditions. That's fine. We can do that. So yeah.
And sorry, lastly, and it has been picked up, and I understand the difficulties if you're trying to make a footway through the site and it's on a third party land, but I think really that would be really important for the holiday use and to encourage those holiday makers staying in those units to use the facilities of the village, and also give better access to the railway station. So I'd really like to see if that can be worked on to give the community, the holiday home users, access through the site. Yeah.
I think given the apparent difficulties in terms of third-party ownerships, I think that would be a difficult thing to condition. We could, however, if the committee was minded, add an informative asking that be pursued, but it wouldn't. I think our view is we couldn't enforce that, but at least it would put it on the menu for consideration.
I'm certainly happy with that, and I accept the third party difficulties would make that an impossible condition to put on. But if we can get an informative that encourages that to happen, that would be really useful. Kelly, you've got a slightly worried look on your face.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to provide some sort of clarity to the motion in that case, because in order for the planning officers to have the power to tinker as it may with the wording in those conditions and informatives and that, I would suggest that it would need to be a minded to and delegate the decision to the title of head of planning or development service manager for it. on a very slightly separate point of order, I'm conscious I've got a note that we've got a recommendation to approve, which was seconded, and we've got a recommendation for refusal, which was also seconded. I just want to go back to that recommendation for refusal, because obviously that came second, but what we don't have is the planning reasons to support that. So when you want to give an alternative motion, that needs to be supported in a planning reason so that members are clear what that motion entails. So I suppose my question is firstly to Councillor Burr, if you just bear with me temporarily, Councillor Cross, as to whether or not you want to leave that motion on the table and or provide the planning grounds.
It's planning policy HCA.
Yeah.
I've no problem. It's HCA policy, and I was going to bring it up because I think that you're wrong saying that it's already been moved and approved. So what? It's been moved and approved for refusal. So the policy is that, you know, those two are on the table, not just because it's been moved and seconded. And I think you've clarified that. Thank you very much.
Right, so the situation is it has been
Just check that Councillor Cross agrees that we.
sorry, Councillor Cross, are you happy with that? Sorry.
So just
So,
for clarity.
So it has been moved and seconded for refusal by Councillors Cross and Burr, and I think we need to do that vote first. The next vote, let's do that vote first. And
so this is the vote to decide if that is a substantive motion.
yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Clear?
So we're doing the
that, if I could just say, that is absolutely correct procedure. With respect, Councillor Sanderson said as though it didn't matter that we'd, you know, put this motion forward. I totally understand what you're saying, it has, but that doesn't mitigate what we've done. Thank you.
We're addressing that, so that's sorted. Right, so it has been moved and seconded for refusal, so I'd like members to please show with a show of hands about who is for refusal. 2 votes for. Those against.
The amendment falls.
So the amendment falls. So the substantive motion is now amended to approve, subject to some minor alterations, which will go to the head of planning, and so that is now on the table. So we will have a show of hands for those members who are for approval, please. Those against? The motion is carried, and I will hand it all over to legal and the head of planning. So that's sorted. I have no other business, so I thank you very much for your attendance this morning, and I'll close the meeting at 10:53, 54. Thank you very much.